Hello. Hello. I am Brooke. Thank you so much, MRM, for having me today. I want to thank Lindsay for reaching out and inviting me to be here today, and Delphine for helping with all the logistical stuff. It's really an honor to be here in front of all of you. And today I am discussing visibility and daring to be seen and heard. And most people, women in particular, in their daily life don't feel seen and heard. And you don't have to be standing up in front of an audience or making social media videos or be a public figure to be seen and heard. You should feel seen and heard in your homes, with your spouse, with your kids, with your employer, with your coworkers. You should really be able to feel like you are authentically yourself and that people are understanding what you're saying and where you're coming from. And a majority of us shy away from that because of people pleasing. We want to make other people happy. We want to not ruffle any feathers. And when you start to use your voice, when you start to step into who you are authentically, it becomes difficult for a lot of people. And so with my clients, we look at their visibility story, their story from usually stemming from their family of origin. I know my grandfather used to say to me all the time, children are to be seen and not heard. How many of you have heard that? And he was a really great grandpa and he would play and stuff, but when it was time for the adults to take over, it was children are to be seen and not heard. And that sort of sets a tone for women and people to hold on to that throughout their life, that you shouldn't be speaking or you shouldn't be saying what's on your mind because you were told at a young age not to. So I will I'm going to start with a little bit of my visibility story and how I got to doing what I'm doing. And I grew up in Rochester, and I had a really great childhood. I have two very supportive and encouraging parents. It's typical, white picket fence, suburbia upbringing. And my first experience with, anybody saying derogatory things to me was in 1985 when I joined a rah-rah soccer team. And I wanted to play soccer, and I was very excited, and I was 5. And we showed up, and I was the only girl on the team at the practice. And so I immediately said, well, I don't want to play. I don't want to play anymore. And my mom said, let's go. We committed. We'll just see what this is about. And then a kid said to me, you can't play on our team. You're a girl. You're not allowed to play with us. And I immediately stood up and pushed him and said, watch me, bud. I was a big fan of Rudy Huxtable, too. She was kind of a big deal when I was 5. So that was my first experience sort of standing up for myself and feeling like someone was, telling me I couldn't do something, and that's not okay. So fast forward a couple years, when I was 10 years old, my sister was diagnosed with cancer, a rare juvenile bone cancer, and she was older than me. And I started receiving a little extra attention at school. And teachers were sort of being empathetic and sympathetic towards what was going on in my home. And my friends, a group of friends, didn't really like the extra attention that I was receiving. So they decided to tell everyone on the playground that I was contagious, and I had to prove myself to a jury of my peers that I wasn't contagious with cancer and couldn't contaminate them. And that is the moment in my childhood where I wanted to blend in with the wallpaper and be invisible. I no longer wanted to be seen. I didn't ask for extra attention. And here I'm getting ostracized by my friends. And as human beings, we feel the need at the base level of everything to be loved, to be understood, and to be accepted. And one of the worst things that can happen to us is to be ostracized away from the people who understand you. So wanting to hide away, I really just stopped using my voice at this point in my life. And I couldn't speak up to my parents. It's not that I couldn't because they wouldn't listen to me. It's because I recognized that my parents were in fight or flight mode with my sister. And the stuff that they were dealing with and she was dealing with was literally life or death. And for me to come in and talk about stuff on the playground and things happening in my life felt sort of like a waste of time. And just blending in the background, that's all I wanted to do for my preteen years, was just blend in. Don't ruffle any feathers, don't make any waves, sort of get good grades, keep up, keep playing my sports and doing what I'm supposed to do, and everything will work out in the end. I also had a sister who did not take a cancer diagnosis and sort of fall by the wayside quietly. She fought vigilantly and out in the public. She was a predominant part of our community at the time. In 1990, 1991, cancer was not as prevalent as it is today. So it was extremely rare for people to have it, and then it was even more rare for kids to have it. So there were fundraisers and events and stuff at her school, and she was an athlete. She had her arm amputated and went on 6 weeks later to win a state championship in tennis. So, and she had, of course, when you're 11, like, your big sister is perfect, right? She's got a great body, and I look like a potato with a bad bob haircut and braces. And I just couldn't compete, right? But see, the thing is you don't have to compete with anybody, but as a sibling, you all know the feeling of wanting to compete, right? You want to beat your sibling out. I mean, that's just how it goes. I was not going to win the competition, and I recognized that. I got to do amazing things. She was involved with the Children's Miracle Network and Rainbow Connection. We went to LA. We met the cast of 90210. We're on the set of the show, and she got to ice skate with Olympic ice skaters, and we met the Red Wings multiple times and the Pistons, and it was really great. But as a 11-year-old who's struggling to find out who she is, and we go to all these amazing things, and then my sister sort of whisked away with the celebrities, and I'm left with my parents in the stands, which is how it should have been. But as a kid, you interpret that completely different. And my sister died when I was 13, and that is where I shut down. And I truly did not want to be seen. I didn't want to be seen. I wanted to forget that she existed. I wanted to not deal with any of it. So this had two ways that it could go, right? I could either start learning how to feel my feelings and start doing healthy things like sports and all that, or I could start drinking with my friends in high school my freshman year, which is what I chose. I drowned my feelings and my voice for a very long time, and at the base of all of this, our core fear as humans is that we are not enough. And I believed I was not enough, and I believed I was not worthy. And this led to a cycle of toxic relationships and a lot of other unhealthy things. And I got married very young to my first husband. I was 23 when we got married. And it was an extremely explosive, toxic, abusive relationship. And I was told by him on a daily basis that I was not good enough, nobody would love me, that I was not pretty enough, I was not skinny enough, and he was the only person who loves me. The sad part about this is that I chose to believe it. And I am completely invisible. I lose all my friends, because that's what happens when you're in an abusive relationship. Your friends fall by the wayside. My parents were fighting to get me and my young daughter, she's a baby, out of this situation. And it's not going good. But there's a pivotal moment in my marriage and in this cycle that happened where I sort of find my voice, even though it was like a squeak. It wasn't a loud roar yet, but we had a night like we had many times before where I was in the bathroom with the door locked. And I can still remember exactly what I was wearing. I had on my pink Victoria's Secret pink sweatpants that were brand new, so pink was like a real cool brand in 2004. And I had on a black tank top that was ripped because he had ripped it from me trying to get away from him. And I was laying on the apartment white little teeny tiles on a cobalt blue bath mat crying. And I can still feel, if I think back hard enough, the cold bathtub against my back. And he was talking to me from under the door into the little 2 inches under the door, just repeatedly telling me how nobody loves you. You know that nobody loves you. I'm the only one who loves you. Where are you gonna go? Your parents don't even love you. You know that your parents think that the wrong kid died, right? They're totally disappointed in you. You are like an epic disappointment. All you have is me. So again, just like on the soccer field when I was 5, it was a moment for me where, you know when you say stuff to your best friends about your parents or your spouse or whoever, and you're complaining, and they say something, and all of a sudden you're like, hold on. You can't talk about my parents that way. It was that sort of a feeling that rose up, and it was like, it was daunting to me because I had never expressed to anybody that I did feel that way for years. I had questioned why I was alive. I had questioned why I wasn't the one who got sick. I had questioned why I wasn't the one who died. My sister was an extraordinary human who, talk about a visibility story. I still have people come up to me and tell me the lessons that she taught them and the things that she left an imprint on their life. And it's amazing to hear that she had such a profound impact and used her voice in such a way that people still respond to me and my parents all the time about how amazing she was. And that was a hard thing for me to measure up against. And the fact that I had thought that and now somebody said it out loud to me made me realize that, yes, I think that, but I knew logically for the first time it wasn't true. And I knew that I had more value to offer the world than what I was exhibiting in my life. And I knew that I was not meant to be living the life that I was living. So took a couple years from there, I think about 2 years, and then I finally got the courage and left my marriage. I then decide I'm going wild for my dirty 30 and drink myself under a table for about a year and a half. And I come from a family with alcoholic history. My parents don't drink. They never really have drank. My aunts and uncles aren't big drinkers, so I didn't understand it until I was smack dab in the middle of alcoholism. And my dad said to me, you know, my dad was an alcoholic. I've told you this since you were a kid. And I used to have to take him to the hospital and put him in straitjackets so he could withdraw from alcohol. And I'm not going to do it with you. So I don't care what you need to do, where you need to go, how you need to do it, but you need to quit drinking. And that was that conversation. He left the decision to me, and I made a choice to get sober. And I quit drinking 8 years ago, and it was the best decision I ever made for myself, because I was hiding behind alcoholism and hiding behind being a victim of my circumstances, and I could not take responsibility for me and for my life. I didn't want to take responsibility. And to be quite honest, I didn't know who I was. I didn't even know at this point what I liked, what my interests were, what I wanted to do with my life anymore. And all of that is very common for everybody. Me feeling those feelings is not any different than anyone in this room having epiphanies in their own lives. And I work with women all the time who don't know who they are, and they don't feel seen, and they don't feel heard, and they feel invisible in their homes and at their workplaces. And I sort of extend a hand and say, I know exactly what that feels like, and I can show you a different way to handle your life and to find your voice and to be seen and to be heard. But you got to be willing to look at your visibility story. And that stems from a very young age. Lots of questions we can ask ourselves. And I found this quote from my friend Lucille Ball, who I love. And it's, love yourself first and everything falls into line. You really have to love yourself to get anything done in this world. And that is so poignant, because you can do a lot of things, and you can accomplish a lot of things, and you can have success on a surface level, but you can feel not worthy of it because you're not being authentic to who you are as a person, or living someone else's dream. And when you love yourself and step into who you are able to come from a place of authenticity, and you're able to be visible as you and not care what other people are thinking, and not care what, if you said something dumb in a sentence, or you said the wrong thing at a meeting. I ran a workshop Friday night. I run a monthly soul circle for women. And my question to the circle this month was, where can you be your most authentic self? And with who in your life are you your most authentic self? And the one thing that struck me about this group of women, it was about 20 women, was none of them felt that they could be themselves around their spouse. They were all hiding who they were. They were bogged down in the chores and the tasks and the being a mom and the cleaning and the resentment of, my husband doesn't help out enough. All these things, they truly felt like they could not be who they are around their own spouse. But it was a unanimous, they all could feel like they were themselves around their best girlfriend. It's almost like one woman said, it was, like a soulmate. I have two soulmates. I have my husband, who I love, and then my girlfriend. And she knows everything about me, and she knows who I am and how I am and the way I think, and she just gets me. I mean, who wouldn't love for people everywhere you go just to get you, right? Not gonna happen. And that's okay. We don't have to have everybody get us and like us for us to be content and to be happy. So my question for you all is, what would you prefer for people to remember you by? And this isn't mean when you're passed away later in life. I'm talking about your people that you are acquaintances with, people that you soccer parents, or people at the dog park, or whoever, people at your work. Do you want to be remembered as someone who played it safe? Or do you want people to think of your name and think, man, she dared greatly. She's like always taking risks and doing crazy stuff and being awesome. The opposite of fitting in is daring. As humans, we are conditioned to fit in. We want to be in a group. We want to be accepted, and we want to be understood. But to dare, you have to be willing to take a leap and stand out, because you're going against the norm. So I have these areas, the big 5, that I work with my clients when they come to see me. Our very first session is spent on the big 5 areas of your life. And these are important to your visibility and finding your voice, because when you have one area in your life that's off, chances are it's off in another area. And the big 5 in your life mirror your authentic self. So you're looking at health, money and finance, love and relationships, career and calling, and your connection to something greater. These are the big 5 areas. So how you have a relationship with money, if you are needy, if you never have enough of it, if it's always running out, chances are with your romantic partner, you never get enough attention. They're always doing something else. You're always abandoned. They mimic each other in all areas. So in order to stand out, we have to release the fear of judgment, okay? Which is not easy to do. I get it. But you really have to be willing to release the fear of judgment and take a look at your programming. And that usually, again, comes from your family. It doesn't always, but typically it does. And when you look into that programming, you identify any hidden issues or limiting beliefs that are centered around being seen and being heard. And we need to, as women in 2020, which is an amazing spot to be, take that story that we have told ourselves since we were young girls, most of us, and transform it into a new one, into what we want our legacy to be and where we want to go and how we want to make an imprint on the people and the places that we are at every day. Hold on, technical difficulty. So I have given you all, there's a visibility handout on all of your tables with some pens, okay? Now, you do not need to fill the whole thing out because it would take you all, they're kind of deep questions. But I would like everybody to fill out the last question, and it's just filling out your power statement. A power statement is I am fill in. So my power statement for 2020 is I am fearless. I have a friend whose power statement this year is I am love and light, because she's gone through a ton of hard times in the past 5 years. And you can use anything. It doesn't have to be one word. It can be, a sentence. However you want to define your power statement is fine. But the power statement is so powerful because the 2 words I and am are the 2 most powerful words in human language. And that's because anything that follows it is what you are and who you are and how you define yourself. So take a few minutes and fill out your power statements. Oh, do we have extra sheets?
Oh, yeah.
Are there extra sheets?
Yeah, they're in that, on that center round table right there.
Here, give me more.
Sheets down to CW Detroit. If you might want to.
I have, yeah, she has the
Okay,
PDF.
Good.
Um,
Right, good.
I tried to have it, I don't know why it's blurry on the PowerPoint, so it could come up and they could at least maybe see it.
Yeah. That's good.
Are you emailing it to them?
Yeah.
Okay. For all you live online viewers, we're sending you this worksheet, so hang tight. I'll wait for them to come back, and then I'll get started again. The few people still filling it out. Hopefully she'll email it over there.
Yeah, T just sent.
Okay, good. Okay, so everyone have that filled out? Was everyone able to come up with one?
Yeah.
So can I get 2 volunteers to read their power statements out loud? Just 2 volunteers. Where? Oh, coming back.
Mine's short.
That's all right. Doesn't have to be long. Okay.
All right, so I am a leader.
That's great. So like I said, mine is I am fearless. I am a leader. Let's give her a hand for reading her power statement. Who else wants to share? I need one more person. Oh, okay, good. And your name?
Amira.
Amira? Okay, what is your power statement?
I am always growing and working towards being my best self.
It's fantastic. Everyone give Amira a round of applause, please. So, again, our core fear is not being enough, is that we don't feel like we are enough. And the reason that a power statement is so important, you can use it as a mantra in the morning. You can be your own hype man before a big meeting or a big project. And it really penetrates your subconscious beliefs about yourself. I'm a huge believer in affirmations because you say them enough, you believe them. Jim Rohn has the quote of, you're only as great as the 5 people that you spend the most time around. And that is the most honest and accurate statement. If we spend our time around people who make us feel less than, we are not going to believe we are enough. How many of you have had friendships, frenemies, thanks to Sex and the City, I love that term, but the frenemies, who made you feel like crap about yourself, underhanded compliments, and never good enough, and always talking bad about you behind your back, and always competing with you. You know, you get something good happen to you, and they're not even happy for you. They're trying to figure out a way to take it away from you. And it's so important in today's world, and I try and teach my daughters, I have 2 daughters, I try and teach them all the time, the empowered women empower women. And when you uplift and when you help another woman, you aren't dimming your light. You're actually making your light burn brighter. There's how many stars in the sky? Someone shining super bright right now isn't going to stop your light from shining. And it's so important to be supportive, especially in a workplace environment where you should when you're working as a team, and you should really be there uplifting everybody and having a space where everyone can share their ideas openly and add their differences to the projects that you're working on. And so questions to find your voice and be heard look like this. What does finding your voice look like to you? In which situations would you most like to find your voice? What do you want? You'd be amazed how many women come into my office and the first question I ask them is, what do you want? Well, I don't know. I don't take I don't know as an answer, because it's not an answer. You do know. And you know why, you know the answer. You just don't want to tell me the answer. I use I don't know as a opportunity to turn it into I wonder. I wonder if I did this, maybe this would happen. So what do you want at work? What do you want in your relationships, in your social life? Where are you silent, and how is that making your life hard? What are you afraid might happen if you speak up and add value to your teams at work, to your marriage, to your children's life, to your parents' life? What are you afraid might happen? A lot of times if we say the one thing we're terrified of happening, it's 99.9% chance it's not going to happen anyway. Our minds are great at tripping us up and making us believe things are going to happen. It's always looking for the worst case scenario. And it was great when we used that in the caveman times, because it was saber-toothed tiger, run and hide. Oh, don't do that again, I'm going to get killed. But in today's world, it's really important to say what you're most afraid of out loud so that you can recognize that it's probably not that big of a deal. Fear of judgment, fear of failing gets in the way every time. Who here has been afraid of failing, of going for something and being terrified that they're going to fail? It's pretty unanimous. But you cannot have success, you cannot be successful if you don't fail. I fail 500 times a week with my business, with my kids, with my husband, but I succeed 501, and that's what matters to me. As long as I get back on my feet and I use failure as a launching pad, as a learning opportunity to grow and to develop myself, then it's not a failure. Quit shrinking. We shrink. We dumb ourselves down. Stop it. Your family doesn't demand perfection from you. Your employers don't demand perfection from you. Quit comparing yourself to other people's social media highlight reels. That is the number one thing that women today get the most insecure about. Social media pictures. Gotta have a perfect image. You're looking at someone's best point of their day that they're posting and not what happened to lead up to that moment. But we can't understand that because we only ever see their highlight reel. I did the most liberating thing for my New Year's resolution. I cleared the clutter of my email subscriptions and my social media friends list, and it was amazing within 24 hours how much better I felt. I unfriended people who I feel like make me feel like less of a person, or people who I know are struggling and they're posting picture perfect life, because that's not real. Why are we trying to project images of perfection to people when life is messy? It's not meant to be perfect. If it was meant to be easy, we'd all start off with winning the lottery and living the life of luxury, right? We really need to, this isn't working. Okay, there. When we shrink ourselves and people please, people pleasing is nothing but a cause for resentment. Okay? When you start to people please, you then start getting expectations of the people that you're people pleasing, and expectations are nothing but future resentments. And when you try and twist yourself and shrink yourself and morph yourself into other people's shapes or fit into the boxes that they've made up, it's inauthentic. Being inauthentic is not being true to yourself. You'll never be able to do your best work if you're inauthentic. And the kicker of this is you will never feel good enough if you are inauthentic and not acting as your true self, because you know that what you're doing is half-ass. So it's important for us to sort of reprogram and reframe our thinking from, to stand out and to be different is a bad thing, and start programming it as a good thing. Your uniqueness, finding it, knowing and owning your strengths, and how you can use it to help people and get results for them is what makes us valuable. When you take your differences, what makes you different? What makes you unique? What skills do you have that someone on your team here may not have that you can add to your group, right? To your campaigns, to all the things that you do. What skill set do you have when planning parties for your kids that you can help a friend who needs help? Because birthday parties are a big thing in today's age. We are not the same. We need to embrace the ways that we are different. And again, not everyone will like you. Not everyone will accept you, but that's okay. Because you don't need as much recognition when you're living a life authentic to who you are. There is no reason to be afraid of standing out. It's actually your superpower. The things that make you unique, the little quirks, the little skill sets we all have individually. And the best part is, nobody can compete with what makes you unique, because you're only one. There's only one of you. Nobody can compete with it. You win every time that you sort of run into things as yourself and by showcasing what you have to offer. So I took these from my friend Elsa. My daughter's Frozen 2 is on loop at my house, and there's this one song at the end that's about finding yourself, and Elsa's singing, and it's, show yourself, step into your power, grow yourself into something new. And I think that as humans, as women, we evolve over time. We have past selves, right? Like, I am nothing like my 20-year-old self. I'm nothing like my 30-year-old self. And these periods of time are opportunities for you to look back and be grateful for the person that you have grown into or who you are becoming. Celebrate that instead of looking back and going, oh God, why, right? Celebrate, Maybe your fashion sense is a little better today. Maybe your hair colors fits your face a little bit better in your coloring, right? Celebrate all of the mistakes that you've made in your life, because without them, you wouldn't be where you are today. So to close out, I've got a little exercise. I'm going to need everybody to stand. Good. If everybody could please close your eyes and place your hands on your hearts. Hold on, just stay there for a second. Feel into that. Everyone that is in this room, all of you, are here for a reason. You're here because you are the innovators. You are the creatives. You are the visionaries. Each one of you adds dynamic value to your families, to your friends, to your teams. You guys are trailblazers, using your truth, adding it to campaigns that help people decide what automobiles, what products to buy. The person who hired you, your bosses, the higher ups, all see the value that you have to add to this company and to the world. They honor your uniqueness, and they want you to stand out in your difference, what makes you different, and take the lead. Don't be afraid to use your voice. Don't be afraid to make decisions. Taking the first step is the hardest part, but once you do it, it's freedom. Again, I'm Brooke. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'll be over there if anyone wants to chat.